Do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a proven roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. We walk you through the exact same process that we use to run franchise marketing campaigns for our clients at scale that has resulted in triple-digit growth. This blueprint isn't for anyone. It's not for people just starting a franchise. It's not for franchises without long-term goals. This is for franchises that want to scale up their marketing in a predictable and profitable way using a proven roadmap. If you want to sell more franchises, keep your current franchisees happy, and learn from people who have already done it, go to franchisegrowthblueprint.com and sign up today. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Franchise Marketing Podcast. Today, I have Jeff Bevis from First Light Home Care. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jordan. Good to be with you.
Awesome. So for those who don't know you, I'd love a quick introduction to yourself and to First Light.
Sure. Well, First Light Home Care, our brand, the non-medical in-home care brand based here in the U.S., just recently opened in Canada, so we're very excited about that. We provide non-medical in-home care to seniors, the disabled population, new moms, people recovering from surgery, really anyone 18 years of age or older. We have just been celebrating, actually this month, our 10th year in business. So my son and I started the business from scratch. We are a complete franchisor. So we have over 240 offices in 36 states in the U.S. and now based in St. Thomas, London, opening in Ontario.
Wow. Congratulations. That's fantastic growth.
We're very excited about it. I've been in franchising myself 38 years. 6 different brands, 5 different industries over that time. And I've also been a caregiver 5 different times in my life, including now caring for my aging parents myself. So,
wow. Very, very cool. So a ton of experience then. So what first inspired you to start First Light, especially with your son as well?
Yeah, it was really a combination. My son and I had always wanted to be in business together. We originally thought actually we were going to be franchisees, given my franchising background, but just really a combination of wanting to provide a new level of care, bring new service standards to the home care industry, and really the right opportunity, right time to create a whole new brand in early 2010.
Cool. Very cool. And how have you been managing and navigating the ways working with a family member and your son? Because I know sometimes there can be a little bit of tension. So how do you help balance that personal life and business life together?
That's a great question. I'm just laughing because we probably should ask him what it's like working with me. He's 37. Very much a tech-savvy guy. He really built out all of our early technology. I give him all the credit for where we are now on the technology side. But it's been a lot of fun. Certainly working, and initially the first 5 or 6 months, we went heads down to build out the infrastructure, worked about 7 days a week with very few days off. I think that was a bit of an eye-opener to him. Mm-hmm. But it's worked very, very well, actually.
That's good to hear. So 240 locations across the U.S., now expanding into Canada. What's been your biggest learnings so far managing such a big network and growing it as well?
I think it's been managing the growth, quite honestly, staying true to our core as it relates to selecting franchisees and not get too far ahead of ourselves. But managing the growth overall, the demand for our services, and then being able to hire enough caregivers. To keep up with the overall demand. Very important.
Cool. I'd love to learn a bit more about you mentioning being, again, from what I'm interpreting, being a bit picky with the franchisees that you're bringing on board. and preventing those maverick rogue franchisees from botching things in your brand's reputation?
Yeah, it's a matter of setting a process, and I think setting requirements and standards for franchise candidates to come into our overall brand, and not cutting corners or, kind of taking the stance of, gosh, we really need to award a franchise this month or this quarter, or 4 or 5 franchises this month, this quarter, to keep the lights on or to make our overall payroll. We've always said from day one, Jordan, that was not going to be the way we would operate. We really see ourselves as being a service company, not a franchise sales company. We obviously use a franchise environment, franchise structure as our distribution network. But I think it's really just been staying very focused and true to our standards and our requirements and not cutting corners. And we get candidate inquiries all the time, as I know many brands do, that say, hey, I've got the money. I'm ready to sign wherever you tell me. I just want this market. I want this brand. Those conversations don't last very long. Although working capital is important, it's a requirement. We're more focused on the person's background, organizational skills, people management skills, presentation skills, communication skills, and will they really fit? From our standpoint, we call it the power of why. Does their individual why match with what we want to build as a brand?
And how do you find that why? Like, how do you really elicit it from a would-be franchisee?
Yeah, it is not easy. It's time consuming. We have a 10-step process, literally, that a candidate goes through with our franchise development team. And that's from first time of contacting us all the way through to actually opening. But the first 7 steps in that 10-step process are literally getting to know them through a series of conference calls, Zoom, Google Meet, WebEx calls. And then ultimately a discovery day is that 7th step to come in and meet with us personally. The last 60 days with COVID-19, we've been doing virtual discovery days because we really want to make sure we get to know that candidate very, very well and have them get to know us, quite honestly. So then we can make that decision mutually. We call mutual evaluation. If we are the right fit, the right brand for them, and they're the right fit for us. So I know I gave you kind of a long answer there, but we just need to make sure that we, again, don't cut corners and really take the candidate through every step in the process to get to know them as well as we possibly can.
For sure. No, I appreciate the in-depth answer. So you brought up a good point, right? With this whole COVID-19 crisis going on, I've found that a lot of franchises have had to innovate, and from what it sounds like, including yours. I'd love to hear a bit more about how you're navigating these waters right now.
Sure. Well, yeah, I think a couple things we've done to navigate. We just decided that we could not over communicate. So we've been communicating with our existing franchise owners on a daily basis for 9 weeks with the entire system. So if you had asked me 3 months ago, if you had a pandemic hit, do you think your team could conduct daily calls with 150, 200 people? I would have laughed because I just didn't think that it was possible. But our entire team, give great kudos to our entire team who have put this together, our COVID-19 task force. And so we've communicated daily to the entire system. We do regional calls 1 day per week as well, break it down to groups of 30 or 40 owners at a time. Mm-hmm. We have focused very much with candidates on showing them what type of infrastructure and support and added focus we've been providing to our existing owners through the COVID-19 pandemic. We have adjusted, as I mentioned, and done virtual discovery days. I think the last count we've done 5 or 6 now over the 9-week period. We've adjusted to where our discovery days pre-COVID-19 were not only in-person days, but typically small groups. I think we usually average 3 or 4 markets, so 5, 6, 8 people in each discovery day. We've adjusted those now to individual. They can be small groups as well, but we've kind of thrown our schedule out the window, quite honestly, where we were doing discovery days before every other Friday. But now with COVID, we've adjusted that and put them on Tuesdays or Thursdays of every single week. The other component I think that we've adjusted is also our new owner training, which has been a process that requires 55 hours of pre-training work and then 1 week of classroom work here. That classroom work has become all virtual. So we conducted our April and our May monthly new owner training classes all virtually as well, and really have not missed a beat.
Wow. That's great. I love it. So you mentioned that you're doing more like one-on-one sessions now. Have you found that to have more of a positive impact and candidates moving quicker throughout your franchise sales funnel, or has it stayed about the same versus the small groups?
It is definitely accelerated. It has really moved people through quicker. Because when we had those, I think for a couple of reasons, we had the discovery days before every other Friday. It was kind of like people would say, "Oh gosh, I can't make it until six weeks out on that particular Friday." Well, now being Tuesday or Thursday, they've got a much more flexible option, and to be able to come in or go through the virtual discovery day quicker, and then they've made decisions faster too.
Awesome. So let's switch gears a little. This podcast is all about growth and marketing. So I'd love to hear, going from 0 to 240 units, which channels and which strategies have really moved the needle to get you where you are today? We'll get right back to the show, but do you feel frustrated trying to grow your franchise? Are you having trouble balancing your consumer and franchise development marketing? Do you wish there was an easier way? Imagine if you had a roadmap to take your franchise's marketing from costing you to making you money. That's why we've created the Franchise Growth Blueprint. To find out more, visit franchisegrowthblueprint.com. That's franchisegrowthblueprint.com. Now back to today's episode.
We rely heavily on the web. That's kind of, to us, the great equalizer, right? So even if somebody has 500 units or they have 5 units, you can look the same on the web. So from day one, very heavy SEO, SEM, the search engine optimization, search engine marketing. We have used brokers a little bit at different times. We are big fans of key broker relationships. But I think historically, Jordan, we've been probably 10 to 12% of our franchise awards annually are from the broker network. So we're very much organic lead driven. Mm-hmm. And we don't really target market from a geography standpoint. We target market to the person or the types of backgrounds. So going on to sites or partnering with associations that have people with sales and marketing backgrounds or HR backgrounds, because our owners do not require healthcare background. So we've been probably a little more focused than most brands, but very, very web driven.
Mm-hmm. And what attracted you to the web versus other channels?
Oh, I think, cost, just a lower cost option, more growth and coverage, and then the flexibility of being able to target into these different associations and different candidate backgrounds. Awesome. I think 10 years ago, in the early years, we were probably 280 to 300 inquiries a month. And so pretty daunting numbers. And I was actually doing franchise development myself the first 3 years. Mm-hmm. Now we're into about 95 to 100 inquiries a month. So it's certainly smaller, but again, much more targeted. And when you don't have any territories across the country, you can really shoot wide open. Now we're a little more focused because we don't want to be targeting people that are in markets we're already in.
For sure. Yeah. And I've heard, speaking with other franchise founders as well, is that when it comes to the web, because it's digital, you're able to track and attribute everything down to the penny of where exactly your money is going and how effective it is.
Very, very true. I think too, you can really see the growth of the web leads, whether it be through third-party lead generation sources or through your own website. I think that the whole kind of evolution of web marketing, especially for franchise development, is an ongoing phenomenon too. But that's definitely been a strength of ours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So if you could go back to when you first started, what would you have done differently?
Oh gosh. Um, I probably would have hired more support people faster, and let go myself sooner, um, as it relates to both franchise development, but also operations support. We would have done a couple things from a training standpoint. We joke here, no disrespect intended to the COVID-19 environment, but we've been trying for 2 years plus to move to a virtual discovery day platform, move to a virtual new owner training platform, and move to a virtual recruiting and interviewing platform with our franchise owners. But it took COVID-19 for all three of those just to instantly overnight become the absolute way for us to actually move. So if I had a crystal ball back then we started, I would have embraced the virtual side, whether it be training, recruiting, or discovery day sooner.
Okay. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your comment on hiring people operationally and getting you, quote unquote, fired, if you will.
Yeah, well, that's definitely something I would have done early on, because I think we were a little bit too methodical in, hey, let's make sure we have X number of owners in place before we expand our HR department, X number of owners in place before we hired our second nurse to lead owners through the licensure process. We had a nurse on board from day one. We actually had our first field support operations person on board before we ever awarded the first franchise. So we were ahead of the curve there. But I guess what I was saying is that as we were growing, I was a little slow in hiring ahead. I was hiring probably just to maintain, stay a little bit ahead. I would have hired faster because I think it would have potentially helped us to grow even faster. We've been very blessed and fortunate with the growth we've had. We are the fastest growing home care brand in North America and have been for the last 4 years. But I think we actually could have grown faster if I would have hired ahead in key areas like HR, technology, marketing, PR, even faster than what we actually did.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so how do you balance that hiring for now and hiring for the future? Like, is there like a special number, something specifically you're looking at to kind of help you with that moving forward?
That's especially a great question. We've used 40 owners per business development director for field support as our ratio from day one. Through the IFA and the CFA numbers, it's substantially higher in most franchise brands, 70, 75, 80 owners typically per each support person. I didn't want our support people to be stretched. So we've used the 40-1 as the basis, but then the tough part of that, right, comes into the projection. So how fast will you add 40 more owners? And the toughest part is probably where are they going to occur? Because I've mentioned before, we're so focused on individual whys. I don't know if we're going to pick up 4 people in California or in British Columbia or in Florida. So by trying to look at and keep the 40 owner per support person ratio, that's been a key benchmark to us. But then beyond that, it's been more of what do the owners need? We've incorporated a third-party outside franchisee satisfaction process for the last 9 years. So we've done ever since our second year in business. Franchise Business Review is the company. And we put a lot of stock in the franchisee satisfaction response and what they were telling us that they needed from a growth standpoint too. So that would be the other factor to answer your question that we really tried to incorporate.
Yeah, I love that feedback loop that you've implemented since the beginning. Because, I mean, so many franchises don't get that continuous feedback, flowing from both yourselves and the franchisees on a continuous basis.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart and not for those with a larger ego. I know we all have egos, but boy, you do the first couple of years, and it really gives you a different view of, okay, we are pretty good in these areas, but boy, we got to make up some ground in some other areas. But we said from day one that there was going to be our report card. So, and I'm proud to to remind everybody that we are 4 out of 5 stars and have been for 9 years straight. We're actually the youngest brand ever to be surveyed from Franchise Business Review of all their different years in business, but we still want to get to 5 stars. So we do pay a lot of attention to the Franchise Business Review satisfaction survey every single year. And to us, again, that's our report card tells us how well we are doing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what advice would you give to someone starting a franchise?
A couple things. I would tell them you're going to work harder than you ever thought you were going to work. So that's probably an extension of what we tell individual franchisees, but I don't think it's any different at the franchisor level. I would encourage them to be open to your franchisee feedback, again, from day one, whether it's a formal survey process through an outside third party or your own survey process. I would also guard against being tempted on the franchise development side. Again, just the interest of selling franchises as fast as you can. If you're more selective and to the real power of why or the individuals that you're bringing in, your brand will grow stronger, faster. And then I would just keep an eye to managing growth and probably hire ahead faster than what I did.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So we've talked about some of like your accomplishments and all of these lessons learned. I'd love to see the other side of that coin. In these 10 years, what has been your biggest loss? And what's really kind of set you back and be like, whoa, like this was a loss, but I'm sure you learned from it.
Gosh, we've had so many successes. Boy, oh boy. I would say probably, even though we're running about a 96.2, 96.5 success rate, the loss of any franchise closure, quite honestly, Jordan, is probably, the biggest disappointment in my mind. That's not to be unrealistic. And we always know that for any different reason, health, business partnerships, economics, or maybe sometimes the brand isn't the right fit, or it's not what they thought it would be. But that would probably be the one that would come to mind first. Just the few 3.5% of owners that we have lost over the 10-year period, and then just making sure that we've learned from each of those. I think we have a little process post closing where we go back and try to kind of introspection on our process, and did we miss something? Did we overlook something? What could we have done better or done more? I think that contributes to your overall growth. If you can make sure you're not closing for any reason, again, an 8, 10, 15% clip, which would be really tough to build a strong brand if you're losing that many people on an annual basis.
Mm-hmm. I love this continued introspection across all, like everything that you do at First Light. I absolutely love it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So I like to end all of our podcast episodes with what I would call a lightning round. So just fast-paced questions, very high level, nothing to worry about.
Okay.
So first question is, what is your favorite tool or app that you cannot live without?
Google Calendar.
Okay. What is your favorite book?
Good to Great.
Oh, okay. Who is the franchise leader that you look up to most?
Gosh, I'd say Michael Isaacson.
Okay. And last but not least, where can people find out more about you and First Light?
Sure. Our website is firstlighthomecare.com or firstlightfranchising.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and welcome any inquiries or connections, and always looking to help people in or considering getting into the franchising world.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. I appreciate you hopping on the podcast.
Absolutely, Jordan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Bye for now.
Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Franchise Marketing Podcast. If you found this episode useful, share it with a friend and subscribe now so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And until then, happy marketing.